So dysfunctional.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Jovaughn here with Dysfunction Films, and welcome to our first tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be doing motion graphics. And before we begin, I'd like to say we're kind of sorry. We planned to get a lot of videos out, but we weren't able to fill, mainly because of school. But don't fear, we have a lot of great plans, and we will be releasing new episodes every other Saturday and new tutorials every Wednesday. There are no ETAs on when that will begin, but the tutorials, I believe, will start after this one. So, without further ado, let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into composition here. We're going to click new comp, and we're going to call this MoGraphs because I like the way that sounds. That completes me. Anyway, moving on. MoGraphs, there we go. So we have a new composition. What we're going to do is we're going to double click on this rectangle here, and what that will do is that will create a rectangle the size of our composition. And it's orange. That's interesting. What we're going to do is click on the word fill here, not the color, but the word. And we're going to select Radial Gradient. I'm going to hit OK. And it looks like I already have it set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the color here. And I'm going to set this to white, which it already is. And I'm going to set this to 75% black. And then I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to grab this little pick whip here and drag it all the way to the edge of the comp. It can go further, it can go closer, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to leave it right there. And now we have this, what's called infinite floor. So that's my background. So I'm going to select my layer here. I'm going to hit enter or return. I'm going to type in BG for background. I'm going to click, and there we go. Now I'm going to lock that layer so I can't move it out of place. Great. Now I'm going to create a new shape. So if what I'm going to do is press Q to cycle through the shapes, or you can just hold down on here and select ellipse. I'm going to get a circle. I'm going to hold shift and drag, and what that does is it constrains it so that way it's equal in both width and height. If I let it go, you see now I have complete control, but if I hold shift, it automatically locks it. So I'm going to make a circle about, let's say about this big, and I'm going to move it to the center of my composition. So I'm going to go over here to the align window. If you don't have that window, you can go to Windows, Align, and select the align window. And then I'll go to center horizontally and vertically, and now it should be perfectly centered with our comp. In order to check, we're going to hit the title action save here and bring it up, and as you can see, it's perfectly in line. But this little anchor point here, it's not necessarily in line, and what we want to do is we want to make sure this is always centered, because for example, if I were to move the anchor point over here and I were to rotate by pressing R, it brings up the rotation. You can see that it rotates around the anchor point and it's not rotating in the center like a normal circle would. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to bring my anchor point to center. And sometimes it takes a bit to get it. If you hold control, it automatically snaps to the nearest point, I guess. You can also bring it up to the top, any edge, corner, but we're going to do the center. So we're going to let it go, and there it goes. It's now in center. We're going to make sure it's aligned. It may not look like it's in center, but believe me, it is. So I'm going to take my title action save off for a second, and now we have this weird gradient on a circle. What we want to do is we're going to remove that. It took the same thing that we did with the background. We're going to go click on the color fill. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to go to word fill, and we're going to select solid. And now we have that giant orange circle. Great. Not what we want. I'm going to set this to red because I like red. And that circle's a bit too big for my liking, so I'm going to press S, select my shape layer or my circle layer. I'm going to rename this, hit enter, and type in red circle. And I'm going to hit select it and hit S, and now I'm going to scale this down. Let's say to about 55%. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. That's good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to call what's called keyframing. So keyframing is basically editing values over time. So over the whole length of our composition here, which is 10 seconds, I can set a keyframe for the position of this, which is what I'm going to do now. Press P and it brings up the position values for the circle. I'm going to select this little stopwatch here, and now what that does is that creates a keyframe here at 0.00000 seconds. And then I want to hold Shift page down. I'm going to press that twice, and that's going to put me 20 frames into my composition. Pressing it once brings you 10, and if you just repeatedly tap it, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40. Anyway, moving on. We're going to create another keyframe. So we're going to don't click the stopwatch because that removes everything. So we don't want to do that. We're going to press the stopwatch button, this add or remove keyframe button here. So we're going to create a keyframe there. So now, if we play this back, nothing happens. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back all the way to the first frame and make sure we have this keyframe selected. We're going to drag it all the way off the screen. And now if I hit space, you see that the circle just animated on. Yeah, pretty cool. You just created your first animation. So that's it for this tutorial. No, we're not done. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna spice this up a little bit. We have this kind of really interesting animation. I guess it's not too interesting at all, actually. So what we have right now, if we jump into the graph editor here by clicking the graph editor icon and select the position value, you see we have this line, and this line represents the pixel per second. So it's going at a constant 1,386 pixel per second, and that's that whole animation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this fit all graphs to view, and what that does, it takes our graphs and fits it to the view. So this is actually over the complete 20 frames, as you can see, 20 frames, and this is our complete animation. And you can see it's very linear. This is called a linear keyframe. It goes from one value to the other without any sort of interesting movement. So what we're going to do is we're going to select our keyframes, and you can zoom in and out using this here. We're going to select our keyframes here. We're going to press F9. And what that does is it eases them. So basically it eases in. It starts off at 0 and it speeds up, and then it eases out and slows down. So now we have a much more interesting animation here using the easy ease. Not what I quite want yet. So I'm going to hit the graph editor again. I'm going to select these, and I'm going to drag this pick whip here all the way this way as much as possible. And then now we have this interesting curve here, and let's see how this looks. That's interesting. Let's watch that again. I like it. Ooh. It kind of like speeds up really fast and slows down. So that's much more interesting if you ask me. And you can get really fancy with this. You can start do all sorts of craziness. But I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. Keep it simple. So now we have this animation here. I'm gonna zoom out and let's play with the scale. So I'm gonna hold Shift and S, and that brings up my scale option while leaving my position option on. If I just hit S, it's discriminating my scale, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna bring up my position as well, so I can see my keyframes. So the position value ends here. I'm gonna set a keyframe for my scale at the same point at which the position ends, and I'm gonna have this thing scale. Well, let's go 10 frames forward. I'm gonna have it scale up. Let's say that's pretty big, and we're gonna go 10 frames down. We're going to have the scale all the way down to the value of 0. So now let's watch that. Interesting. Ooh. So you see how that weird feels? It goes from a very organic movement, that's what I like to call it, this very organic movement, to what's called very choppy. So we're going to select these keyframes here in F9, so that way we get a bit more organic movement. And it looks like my thing is lagging. I'm going to jump down to a half resolution so we can see it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move this keyframe in quite a bit, so we have it. We'll slide this over to, so we have it comes in, scales up, and out. So now we have. Actually, no, wait. We can spread this out for a second. So now we have, if you jump into the graph editor and set the scale value here, and we fit all the graphs to view, we have this kind of ease in scale. The speed of scale, percent per second. It's going at 100% per second, and then it goes all the way to 96, and then it decreases all the way back down to 0. And then we see it do the opposite. Well, obviously because it's scaling down now. But what we want to do is we want to select these keyframes. We want to do the same exact thing we just did before, we're gonna drag this handle here, and we're gonna drag it all the way here. So now we have this very interesting movement where it starts off really fast and then gets really slow. So let's see how that looks. Much better. I like that, where it scales up, scales up. So so we're gonna keep that, and let's get we're gonna keep this simple. So we're gonna hit Control D, and what that does, it duplicates our layer. We're gonna hit, and then we're gonna hit U, and that brings up all the values that we've edited so far. So the way After Effects works, it works in layers. So every layer is on top of one another. So if I play this back, you won't see anything because they're the same exact thing on top of one another. But if I offset this layer, if I select both of them and hit U, you can see both the keyframes. So if I offset this layer here, you will see a ripple effect. You see one start and one follows right after. Back. Whoops! Great, that's awesome. Not what we want. What we're gonna do is we're gonna undo that, and we're gonna keep this last animation here with the scale. We're gonna delete our position keyframes. Let's not do that. Let's first delete this keyframe here, and make sure our position stays in the center, and we'll delete that position center. Beautiful. And then we're going to bring up our scale here. So we're going to turn off this red circle down here, and we're going to by clicking this eye here. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to offset this so that way these keyframes are in line. And if you want to make sure they're aligned, you can put them top, and if you see these light up here, you can see that they're aligned. And if you press these arrows, it cycles between your keyframes. So you can, if you're not quite on that keyframe yet, by pressing this button, it would throw you to it. So now we have this red circle. This red circle just animated out, and it looks like this one's just here. But what we want to do is we want to make sure this circle starts at 0. We're going to make it go all the way down to 0. I'm going to have it scale up and scale out. I guess that could stay. And then we're just going to duplicate this again. Control D, and we're going to select all of these, hit U, and then just align all of these first keyframes with the last keyframe of the previous animation. So now if we play this back, we have this. Whoops, let me turn back on my red circle here. Oh, I just turned everything off. That's great. That is great. Let's again turn on. We have scale in, scale out, scale in, scale out, scale in, scale out, scale in, scale out. That's super interesting. I know what you're saying. It's not. So now what you might see is this banding around here, and that's because of we're working in 8 bits per channel. If you want to get rid of that, you just hit Control, or my fault, cancel. I'm gonna hit Alt and click, and that changes to 16 bits per channel, and you can click again and make it 32, but we're gonna keep it at 16. If you want to edit faster, you do it at 8, but 16 is better quality. And you may not notice it because of YouTube, and the compression, but otherwise, if you're rendering, you might render in 32 or 16 bits per channel. Other than that, let's continue. So now we have this red circle animating on, it scales up, scales out, and then we have this one here following. What we want to do is we want to make this circle blue. So I'm going to select my color here. I'm going to go to a nice light blue. Oops, not what I wanted. Something kind of like that, I guess. And then we would select this layer here. We'll go to green. We're just going to work our way down this scale here, and go to the last one and make this one an orange, a nice sunset. Orange. You probably have better taste in color than I do, because I'm like colorblind. So now if we play this back, we have scale up, scale out, scale up, scale out, scale up, scale out, scale up, scale out. Beautiful. Simple animation, didn't take much time, and all I really did was just duplicate what I did. And so now let's just finish this animation off here. We're gonna play with some text. So So we're gonna grab the text tool here, or you can believe press T, Control T, and then we're gonna type in something. So we're gonna type in welcome to, and we're gonna center that with our align tool. I love this tool. And I don't want an outline. Select my outline. I'm gonna hit this here. So now it has no outline. I'm gonna set my text to the color black, and there we go. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna animate this text on. Same way we did pretty much all these circles. We're gonna hit S to bring up our scale. And I'm going to copy these keyframes by selecting them, can Control C, clicking on our text layer, and can Control V. And now you see it pasted it to our animation here. But we're going to undo that. We're going to set our playhead to the end of the animation. And we're going to hit Control V again. And it pastes at the beginning of that playhead. So now, as soon as this scales off, we have our text scaling on. Now you see the text scaled off in a pretty weird way. That's because of the position of our anchor point. Everything is happens around anchor point. So if our anchor point is in this lower corner here, we're going to move to the center. We're going to select this and we're going to Control, and we're going to line that up right there, beautiful. And I just realized that doesn't look like our text is in the center anymore, right? So now we're going to have to align it because it aligns to the anchor point. We're going to move our anchor point to the center. Now our text is in the center. So now when we put this back, we have a beautiful welcome to, and it scales up. But we don't want it to scale up. We're gonna, as soon as it scales up, I'm gonna select this last key from here and I'm gonna delete it. That's not what I want to do. Beautiful. So now it scales up. And maybe we can have it scaled down a bit. Let's go to this first one here. Yeah. And then we'll select these. We'll go into the graph editor just to make sure. We're going to set fit to graph because I cannot see that at all. And you see we have this. We want it to do the same exact thing I did before. So we're going to have it scale up and then just, yeah, come to a nice halt. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So now what we want to do is I'm going to add another text here. I'm going to say to MoGraphs. And I'm just going to make it about the same size as that phrase, welcome to. Let's say scale it down. Hold shift to drag on. If you hold shift, it allows you to move on a specific axis, whether it be the x-axis or the y-axis, from the original point. You cannot go on a diagonal, no matter how hard you try. If you let go of shift, you can do whatever you want, but shift allows a locking. So I'm going to move it on my x-axis here. I'm going to use the arrow keys to get fine adjustment. It looks about right. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it like that. That's fine. So now what we want to do is what we're going to do. We're going to edit our text welcome to move up. So I'm going to bring up my title action safe for this next portion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide my MoGraphs. So as soon as it scales up, welcome to, we're going to let it sit for a while. We're going to hit position, and we're going to hold shift for S scale so we see our keyframes. And then we're going to jump back to our last keyframe here. We're going to set a keyframe for the position. We're going to jump forward 10 keyframes, holding shift page down. We're going to keyframe in position again. We're going to jump forward another 10, and we're going to set a keyframe one last time. So now what we're going to do is move our welcome up to the top of this line right here. This cross here, right to the top. And so now it's going to stay where it is, and then it's just going to move up. Really, really interesting. But what we wanted to do is before it moves up, we want it to move down. So we're going to have it, what did I just do? I undid that. So we're going to move back again up to the top here. and then before it moves up, we're going to move it down here just a tad. So now we have, we're going to select this keyframe that we just created here. If you need help zooming in, you can actually zoom in using this, or you can zoom into your or to your playhead using this. And we're going to drag it over here like this. So now we have this down up kind of motion, and that's really cool and all, but not interesting at all. So we're going to select these, we're going to hit F9 because that's what we do. I'm going to select all this here, and I'm going to drag this all this way. So now if you play this back, we have this kind of fluid motion, organic. Beautiful. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select our mode graphs here. I'm going to hit P for position, and I'm going to turn it back on so we can see it. And when this goes down, we want our mode graphs to be right at the edge of this here. And we're going to set a keyframe for the position. And when that finishes, we want this to finish at this exact same time, and we want it to be right below this welcome here. So now we have this. Yeah, you may be like, Jovaughn, what are you doing? Don't worry, it's for our plan. So you're going to select these keyframes here, we're going to hit F9, we're going to do the same exact thing that we've been doing all day, because, you know, organic is better. That's... I have no life. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to right before this animation here begins. And I'm going to set a keyframe for... actually, right before this animation begins. I'm gonna create a mask. So I'm gonna select this tool here, this pen tool, and I'm just gonna click right here, and I'm gonna click on the opposite side, so that way it goes exactly straight across. I'm gonna just do one all the way around this area. It's not too important. So now you can't see the words welcome graph, your mode graphs. But what we're going to do is we're going to play this back slowly so you can see what happens. Now you see that the mask is moving. What you're going to do is you're going to hit M to bring up your mask path, and you want to keyframe your mask path. So we're going to go back, we're going to hold shift and bring up P so we see our position value. We're going to keyframe our mask path, and we're going to just go to the last keyframe, and we want to make sure that no matter what, I don't care what else move is, we want this to be in that same exact line where it was before. Beautiful. Now you can see words. So now when you play it back, we have this. What we were trying to, the effect we're trying to achieve is of the word mode graph coming out of the word welcome. So you may be like, yeah, it looks like it's kind of lagging. Well, it is, because the way this is moving, it's going very linear. It's going at a constant pixel per second, while this is going much faster at the beginning and slower at the end. So they don't line up perfectly. So we're going to select these keyframes. We're going to hit F9. I don't have to say it anymore. I'm going to drag it, and then now when you play it back, it should look like it's coming out of the word welcome. Close enough. And the beauty of this is you can always adjust the position at the end. Here, select by going to your last position value, and you can adjust it ever so slightly to be closer, further, and then beautiful. So now let's find a way to get rid of all of this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a line. So there's two ways you can do this. You can actually create a line. Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a rectangle. I'm gonna create a nice rectangle here. I'm gonna drag it to just about that size. I'm gonna set the fill to a nice black because that's manly. Right? And then all I'm gonna do for this portion is it's really simple. And always make sure you name your layers, because I'm pretty sure I only have one red circle. I believe this one is blue. And then this one is green circle. And then this one is orange. Beautiful. So now let's rename this to line or rectangle, if you will. I don't care. So I'm going to bring up my MoGraphs. I'm going to hit U so I can see the last keyframe, and we're going to wait a second, and then right at this point we want this to animate on. So what we're going to do is we're going to select P for position, and we're going to select the position right all the way over here like this. Wait, we're going to hit Control Z. So now you can see our anchor point is actually in the center. What we want it to be is in the center of this composition. So we're going to grab this anchor point and hit Control. And we're going to make sure it's in the center of this. There you go. Beautiful. So now, again, we're going to select the position. We're going to set a stopwatch for it, or a keyframe, if you will, and drag it off the screen, just like that. And then I'm going to hit my spacebar so I can get a good sense of timing. So at about this point in time, I want my rectangle to be all the way over here. That's really interesting. So I'm going to select this again. I'm not going to say it because it's getting tiring. So when you hit F9, you see it turns into a more like a parabola, if you will, or a Bezier, because it speeds in and slows out. So we're gonna drag this like that, and let's see how that looks. What we can do is we can edit this position value. We're gonna drag it a bit further. Oops, Control Z. Why is it moving the whole entire? Oh, I have both keyframes selected, so it's going to move both keyframes. I just want to move this one keyframe here, so I'm going to hold Shift and move it a bit further, so that way it goes. So even though it's slowing down, it doesn't slow down too much on screen. So now what I want is behind my what I want is another rectangle. And I'm going to draw this one to be about the size of the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this rectangle into it's about halfway, or at this point in time. And actually I'm going to extend this rectangle quite a bit. And I'm going to parent it. I'm going to select this here. I'm going to parent it by selecting this parent tool, the pick whip, to my line layer. So now when my line layer moves, you can see this rectangle follows. And let's just no, that's fine. See me like Jovaughn. Why? Well, the effect we're trying to achieve with this is that it is erasing our text. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this layer to alpha line matte. I'll Control Z. I select this and set it to alpha line. No, my fault. Inverted. So when that comes on, it does not show. So we're going to do the same thing here, but we don't want to do it to MoGraphs. We want it to do it to line. How would we ever do this? So what we're going to undo what we just did. We're going to select these two layers. We're going to hit Control Shift C to pre-compose them, and we call this text. So now what that does, it creates a new composition, as you can see in our thing here, and basically in that composition, if I jump into there, it's our text. Our text has been moved into this composition and has, if I select them all together and hit U, you can see all our animations have been copied over, all our settings and whatnot. And you cannot see it because the background's black, but if I created a new solid, set it to white, hit OK, put it below, you can actually see our text. Beautiful. But I'm going to delete that and I'm going to leave it. So now our composition isn't a composition, this is compception, people. Remember that. And we want, and the reason for that is so that way we can achieve the effect of erasing while not erasing everything. So we're gonna do exactly what we just did with that, but we're gonna do it to the shape layer 1. Actually, let's rename this to eraser. Wow, I need to go back to school. So now when I play this back, I have this. That took way too much work. And if you want, you can always make this thinner. Holding no, not what I wanted. And also, do remember, if you make any adjustments to your line, like you might have just seen, is this is also parent to it. So any value that edits in, whether it be scale or position, will also happen to this. So what you might want to do is you want to unparent this from the line, make your adjustment. So I want to make my line thinner and a bit longer, and then I'll reparent this to, or my fault, the line, this to the line. And there you go. I thought I called this eraser. There you go. So now when we play, let's play it all back. Beautiful. And you just created your first intro in After Effects using motion graphics. It's that simple, and you can get really complicated, or really complex with this, really, using all sorts of modifiers on your shape layers. You don't have to just use shape layers, you can do pictures and everything as well. It's just a concept, and it's all subject to preference. To you, this may look like complete trash, but to me, I might have just blown myself away. I didn't. But yeah, this has so much potential. I can't wait to see what you guys have to do. If you follow the tutorial and you created something pretty cool, you think it's cool, be sure to share it below. I'd like to see it. And also be sure to tell us what you would like in your tutorials. Pretty much anything can be done here. Anything. Can add anything. But, you know, we're always open to suggestions. So yeah, if you like what you see, be sure to let us know. We want to know if we're wasting your time creating this content. And be sure to share it. Tell people you know that you found the channel and they're pretty awesome. They're quite dysfunctional. This has been Jovaughn with Dysfunctional Films, and I'll see you next time.